Anyway, I had the privilege of practicing infectious diseases for over 30 years. I think it is by far the most interesting subspecialty in medicine. It's for me a sort of manifestation of the joy that I used to get reading Nancy Drew when I was a kid. You have to gather all of the disparate facts and pieces of evidence from all over the place and then synthesize them in order to figure out how to solve a problem for a patient. Although there are some technical parts of this, you really don't have to have any kind of scientific knowledge at all in order to understand and appreciate these infectious disease stories that I really enjoy telling. I always start my course with a discussion of plague because it has tremendous historical significance. It's very dramatic. I love this dude. This is the plague dude. And this is actually a really brilliant outfit that I like to talk about, and it makes actually a lot of sense. But I also talk about plague in San Francisco at around 1900 in Chinatown, and that is a huge story. And I also like to talk about just a clinical case of a couple who presented to an emergency room in Manhattan with plague, and how there's no plague within thousands of miles of New York City, but they were able to come up with the diagnosis really quickly. So I also talk a lot about pandemics. We're still in the midst of the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, and I'm going to talk about that, obviously. But I've had an interest in pandemics since my father gave me a New Yorker article when I was still in college, I think, about the great influenza pandemic of 1918, and that has been a real interest of mine. And I really like to talk about 1918. I've been talking about pandemics since 1995. I gave my first talk about H5N1 and the potential for that to cause a pandemic. And I like to talk about pandemic preparation and pandemic forecasting. So that will be part of my my course. I printed out this slide that I used in a talk that I gave in 2014, and you might recognize this individual. I actually knew who he was in 2014. He was quite famous in the infectious disease community, although most people wouldn't have known who he was until he was chosen as Trump's vice presidential candidate and then subsequently vice president. But I knew about him, and when Trump took him on the ticket, I said, that guy? And Mike Pence when he was governor of Indiana, was very famous because the way he had unconscionably and grossly mishandled a huge HIV outbreak in the southern part of his state. And so that's a great story. And so anyway, sign up for my course and find out why I never eat romaine lettuce, or why going to the hospital might not be the safest option for you, and why if you think you're allergic to penicillin, you're probably not.